Hi, this is Spiritual Bully. This is a video response to LogosApologia, Chris. This is not a formal reply, as in, I'm not that serious about winning your books, but I do think at this moment, for this case, you are entitled to my opinion about it, so here are my answers. Now, before I get into all that, I want to ask you, what really are you asking? Are you asking us why we don't um, believe in the resurrection story despite these five alleged facts? Or are you asking us to convince you that the resurrection story is untrue based on the five facts that you believe? Because I literally cannot convince you that the resurrection story isn't true. Believe me, I've spoken to a lot of people on a lot of things, and I have met people that are just flat out irrational. And so it's possible to be a denier. So I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying I cannot convince you of something if you really just are closed minded. So if that's what you're asking, I'm not even going to try. If you're asking us or me why I don't buy the resurrection story despite your five facts, then I'll give you my best answer. Your first fact is that Jeshua died on the cross. This I don't dispute, but this, at best, is a necessary condition. Anybody who lives has to die. Dying is a necessary condition, but far from sufficient. So this doesn't really prove anything. This is not evidence for anything other than a person lived and died. Just like your fifth fact, the empty tomb, it, again, is a necessary condition, but far from sufficient. Just having an empty tomb means nothing. So, if you want me to explain how somebody died and has an empty tomb, easy. It can be a little more complex as a conspiracy theory as to how it was stolen, but ultimately, a person dying, being buried in a tomb, and a tomb was emptied isn't impossible, however unlikely. Your second and third fact, I forgot which one was Paul, which one was James, but the disciples and James really don't mean anything to me either, because one, they're not, I don't even want to count them as eyewitness accounts, but for the sake of argument, even if they are biased, therefore that's very easy to discount. As for Paul, that is what you consider a counter bias, but that's not good enough for me. A person saying that he saw something supernatural is not good enough for me. If you want to ask me what would be evidence that would convince me this is true, I will have to be honest. Eyewitness accounts of a resurrection story is just not going to be enough. In fact, I'll tell you right now that 1,000 people today saying that they saw the resurrection story will not convince me. Why? I actually went ahead and looked up the death toll of Jonestown. 900 people committed suicide in Jonestown. 39 people committed suicide in Heaven's Gate. Somehow, I am not expecting you to tell me that just because over 900 idiots died for what they believed is true, no matter how sincere. So maybe I should ask you, Chris, what would it take to convince you that the resurrection story is not true? Because if you're not interested in being convinced that you could be wrong, this discussion is completely meaningless.